What's up, YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. So, looks like we might actually have some competition for the Lowrider S. Indian has just recently announced the Indian Sport Chief, and at first glance, it really looks very comparable to the Lowrider S. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Lowrider S in comparison to the Sport Chief, and sort of talk about what are some of the similarities and what are some of the differences. And in the end, I'll just kind of give some of my off-the-cuff thoughts and opinions on what I think about the new Sport Chief. But before I start, I just want to get this off my chest that I think it's a good thing that Harley has some competition for the Lowrider S. The Lowrider S has been kind of the it bike for quite some time, maybe the last 3 to 5 years if you include the Dyna model. So it makes sense that there will be some competition for the bike. And like I said, I think it's a good thing when there's competition for Harley. It hopefully pushes them to step up their game, which remains to be seen yet, but that's my hope. So let's get into some of the similarities, starting with the price point. Now, I always like to start with the price point, and both bikes are priced, relatively the same, kind of in that 18 to 19K range. The Lowrider S actually is a little bit cheaper than the Sport Chief, but not by that much, maybe like $1,000. In terms of engine performance, again, we're kind of splitting hairs here. 120 to 125 foot-pounds of torque for either bike, and HP is probably very comparable as well for both bikes, although it's not listed. I'm going to guess that it's around 85 to maybe 95 horsepower. The Chief Sport obviously comes with their air-cooled Thunderstroke 116 engine, and the Lowrider S has the M8 117 engine. In terms of weight, again, very similar, 685 pounds wet for the Sport Chief and 679 wet on the Lowrider S. A difference of about 6 pounds. I'm gonna guess that the fairing might add a little bit more weight. Who knows? The seat height, they both come in about 27 inches, which is good for us short riders there. Rake and dimensions are very comparable on both bikes. They both have inverter forks as well, cruise control, and in general, just looks-wise and aesthetics. But they both have that West Coast club-style look to it. It's very iconic. They both have that look going for them. So at first glance, with some of the specs that I talked about, they're both very similar bikes. They're both in the same category, performance cruiser, right? Like club style cruisers, if you will. But as we start breaking down the differences, I think one bike, to me, in my opinion, kind of ekes out the other. So let's talk about some of the differences. They both come with dual disc front brakes, which is great, but the Indian Sport Chief does have the Brembo dual disc brakes. Brembo is a very respectable brand out there. I know a lot of Harley riders upgrade their brakes to Brembos, and so it's nice to see that on the Sport Chief, it already comes outfitted with Brembo brakes. Next on the list of differences is, the Indian Sport Chief comes with the Fox piggyback rear shocks versus the mono shocks on the Lowrider S. I've never owned a pair of Fox shocks before, so I can't really say whether I think it's an upgrade or not, but I do know that when the people change out their suspension, Fox is a brand that I see quite often. So shout out to, the Indian for kind of understanding what their customers want and just putting it already onto the bike without upcharging them, right? Not to mention that the piggyback rear shocks look pretty cool. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it looks great on the bike. It looks very custom, it has that look going for it already, straight from the factory. So I think that's kind of cool. KYB inverted telescopic forks on the Sport Chief again. This is another kind of like a brand play. The Sport Chief also does have a better lean angle by about 1 degree. To me, this is, I think, one of the more appealing differences on the Sport Chief. The fact that you can get a little bit lower, lean a little bit more into the curves for more aggressive riding, I think that's a good move. I think that's something that's going to appeal to a lot of different riders. Also, the Sport Chief does come with the 6-inch rider setup stock. From the promo video that I saw, I think they make it easy for you to swap out the different riser lengths if you wanted to. If you take it to a dealership or if you take it to, an independent shop to do it, it costs an arm and a leg. And so I think this is very appealing to me, at least, to know that it already comes with the 6-inch risers, which is much taller than the 4-inch riser on the Lowrider S. The fact that if you wanted to get a different riser set or change up the height of the riser, the fact that I think Indian makes it pretty plug and play is really appealing to me. Can't forget to mention the touchscreen infotainment display on the Chief. It has navigation, Bluetooth, and all of that good stuff. That is something that is really high on my list of wants on a motorcycle, but you have to get into the baggers on a Harley to get those, which is kind of disappointing. I think the touchscreen infotainment display is something that really appeals to me, and I think that it gives the Sport Chief a much more attractive package versus the Lowrider S. There's a lot of differences here. It comes stock with the T-Sport fairing on the Chief versus the mini fairing on the Lowrider S. Some people might not like the look of it, but the fact that it comes stock with it and you can, definitely change out the windscreen size, or you can outfit it to something different that if you want to later on. But the fact that it comes with it is pretty critical, because like you can start riding and not have to worry about all these different add-ons. You can take your time with it. There's just a lot of flexibility when you have a lot of these options available to you from the get-go. So I like that move. I'm not the biggest fan of the looks, but I like the fact that it comes with it right away, so that if you jump on the highway, you have some wind protection. The Cheap Sport also comes standard with ABS, which is, if you were to get ABS on the Lowrider S, I think that's like another $1,000. It comes standard with LEDs all around, not just the headlights, but the turn signals. You get riding modes on the Cheap Sport. You also get Pirelli Night Dragons on the Cheap Sport. Never used those, but I know Pirelli is a great brand, and it looks like from the reviews on the tire itself, it has fantastic reviews. So if you can call that an upgrade, I think that's an upgrade. The only difference that I think the Lowrider S has an advantage is the gas tank. The Sports Chief comes with a 4-gallon tank versus the 5-gallon tank, but considering all of these upgrades on the Sport Chief, I think I could take that. I'll take that. So on paper, it's really hard to argue, in my opinion, like that the Lowrider S is a better value or better bike, because the Sport Chief has so many things going for it, only for $1,000 more, right? So yeah, I always like to kind of play this game. Like if you strip out the brand names from both bikes, and if you were to list all of the the specs and the features on one bike versus the other, and if you were to compare them both, which one would win out? Clearly the Sport Chief is a better value proposition. There's just so many better parts. The infotainment system alone is a huge upgrade from the Lowrider S. Performance-wise, they're both equal price. They're both around the same price. If I bought my bikes based on like logic and value and price and all that, of course I'm gonna go with the Sport Chief. But it's not always that simple. And so that's kind of what I wanted to get into, which is some of the intangibles that I think play into effect when you're thinking about brands and different bikes. For me, one of the things that Harley has going for them is just the larger dealer network. I have like 4 dealers within a 10-mile, 15-mile vicinity. When you have that, you shop around. You have a lot of different dealers that you can go to. I don't know what it's like in your area, but I know that for me, there really aren't that many Indian dealers. Some of them are like hybrids. And so it's nice to know that there's a pretty large Harley dealer network in my area and throughout the country. The other thing is, like, you could clearly tell that the Sport Chief is the copycat of the Lowrider S, maybe thrown in with some better parts. But if you value originality and like authenticity, it's got to be Harley. Say what you will of Harley, but they are one of the most copied, and sometimes downright stolen designs that Harley creates. To me, like, Harleys and cruisers are synonymous, and everything else is almost like a derivative of what Harley creates. Call me a Harley fanboy if you want, but that's just kind of how I see it, and I think a lot of other people will too. But again, those intangibles are hard to quantify, right? If I was just going for what's the most bang for the buck that I can get for my dollar, the Sport Chief clearly wins out. The last thing I would just want to end with is the marketing campaign on the Sport Chief. It almost felt like pandering a little bit, and let me explain. They had the rider with a Biltwell lane splitter, a leather vest, flannel, and some Vans, right? Like you can clearly see on one of the promo images, like the dude wearing Vans. They got it to a T, but yet somehow it doesn't feel, again, authentic. They bought the Dynabro costume on, at whatever Halloween store. It almost felt like a parody, like an SNL parody skit. Those memes of like the Dynabro starter pack, and like it has the flannel, it has like the Vans and all that stuff. That's what it was. That's what this commercial was. I was like, that's really, to me, that's so campy and that's so cheesy. And they're like, oh, yeah, they wear flannels and they wear Vans, so let's just use that. It's hard for me to articulate it, but to me, it just felt very pandering is the best way I can put it. But I'll leave it at that. That's neither here nor there. If you're just talking about, the comparisons between the Lowrider S and the Sport Chief, I give a lot of credit to the Lowrider S, the ingenuity and just like being the first on the scene to start this massive trend. I think the Lowrider S did an incredible job. Clearly it started a trend. It clearly started a wave. Harley should take some of the credit that they were the first on the scene to kind of create this wave. But yeah, that's enough of me ranting. I hope this was helpful. To be honest with you, like if I could do it all over again, I think I might pick the Sport Chief, just because it's hard to argue with all of those upgrades. I'm definitely excited to try one out this summer. Waiting for the Indian demo day to roll by through my area. I'm gonna try to get on one as soon as I can, but But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope this video was helpful. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.